Yeah. Macallan and friends, come vibe with us. Real talk, no lies. One fam, that's right. Macallan and friends, come vibe with us. Real talk, no lies. One fam, that's right. Macallan and friends, come vibe with us.
One of the movements, and I kind of want to hear from both Natalie and Kim here. Big thing is the feminist movement, right? And I know we said some things, and we want to involve women in this conversation now. Is we said the feminist movement is no longer about equality. This is something I said in the podcast. I feel is more about women trying to be like men, or in a sense better than men, is what they're fighting for. Now I feel. And then I also said a statement about sexism, about being sexist, about like holding a door for a woman in our culture is now considered sexist, you know. So just throwing that out there for one of the things I mentioned in our episode. And I want to let y'all speak on if you had something. But
as far as like the feminist movement, I feel like and this is just like from my take, because the more I see a woman to be feminist, because there's like levels to feminism, you know, there's some women that are really feminist, then you have the more traditional women. But I feel like the feminist movement ultimately makes women like miserable, right? Like in a sense, because like you'll have these like, you know, older women with like multiple college degrees and, you know, great career success, but no families, and they're coming home to nothing. And I think that stands against like that design of like women, you know, being the caterers, being the family. And even when you run into these kind of women, like I personally feel like, and this is just my opinion, just the way I feel, but I personally feel like those women are more miserable. Those women are not as happy as the soccer mom. Like the soccer mom to me just looks happier. That's my opinion. Trust me, I could be completely wrong. Yeah. But I think the woman that's like working 40, 50 hours a week with 3 college degrees, going home to no one, no husband, no kids, is not as happy as that quote unquote housewife, or even if she does have a job or whatever the case is, but that woman that's watching her kids play the piano, like that to me
more
is just
playing her role.
That's the thing, because that's subjective
design.
now. Yeah, that's subjective now.
Is.
You see, but just in terms of just those two women, I feel like the feminist woman ultimately pushes you out of that piano side and all of that. So,
so on that note, I know we can go on here because we got our opinions. I definitely let y'all come in and kind of see y'all views. And I think the first thing I have to start it off is I made a statement. Do you? And I guess I want to hear your thoughts, and y'all can take it where y'all want from here. But do you feel it's offensive to hold the door for a woman for you or in our culture? You feel, or you know, I guess.
I don't think that's offensive at all. I feel like that's flattering that someone's going to hold the door for you for those few seconds so you can walk through. And it's also a thoughtful like gesture to me. That's how I feel about holding a door. I'm not going to be offended and like attack the person. I'll be like, thank you.
Yeah. And also, y'all can also go into, because I want to hear from y'all a little, what Eric said about just how,
like, what does feminism bring out of a woman ultimately? Like, is it really happiness?
Is there,
yeah. I would assault somebody that opens the door for me. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I personally am not offended. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great part of our culture where there is that level of respect that men have for women. I mean, actually, that's another topic, respect. But like you said, there are levels of feminism. Do I agree with the statement that, you know, the woman that has more degrees and is alone is more miserable than the soccer mom? I think there's sacrifices, or there's a desire on both ends. So the soccer mom might desire to be alone half the time, you know. So I think it really is like on perspective.
Away from her kids, alone.
Yeah,
or not have kids alone.
I mean, we see that in movies. There was a movie recently about that where the moms had like a mom night out or whatever.
But in real life, you think like women want to be
like,
alone?
I wish my kid never existed.
I don't think they never exist. I don't think that's what they're thinking, but they do desire that lifestyle of a woman maybe not having a family. They might desire that. We don't know.
Yeah, so like,
I think on both ends, it comes with sacrifice. You sacrifice your own personal space when you become a mom. because that doesn't exist, and you become a wife. When you want to pursue your career more than, you know, having a family and settling down, that also comes with a sacrifice. So it really depends on what the person values. And I think that the fact that women have a choice for that now is big. So the fact that that's a choice now is something that's crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy in a
I
way.
would,
Crazy in a good way or a bad way?
in a good way, she's saying, right?
I think it's crazy in a good way.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, socially, you know, like you said, the women should be at home, having a family.
No,
I
You
don't
didn't say that, but
yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to go to that extreme.
Yeah.
But you did.
Okay.
No.
Thing I wanted to say here, and then I'll let you speak here. The reason I say that is because I feel like in our culture, what's happening is, we got, and then we mentioned this one of us. I think Eric actually mentioned this. We got men saying there's no good women, and we got women saying there's no good men. And I feel like that's not an accident. I feel like because of what we're valuing in our culture, what's happening is, we're not stepping into who we are as men and women. Rather, we're stepping into who we feel we need to be and compete against one another rather than complement one another, you know? But yeah.
Another thing that we kind of spoke about was we said how we've been like, men and women have both kind of been taken away from the design. But my argument is that women have been taken away more from that design. And the proof of that is the low fertility rate. There's just nothing good about women not having kids.
But men play a part in that too. Low fertility rate.
Men play a part, yes.
So
but then
men
who has been taken away more from the design? Are men less like the traditional men, or women less like the traditional women? And in my opinion, women are now less like the traditional woman.
It's tricky because I think once you disrupt one side, you disrupt the other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't,
because they
disrupt
rely
one
on each
side
other.
because it's supposed to be a complementary relationship. So once you disrupt manhood, you automatically confuse women. You disrupt womanhood, now you disrupt the design of men. But yeah.
And I'll preface, I don't fully agree with the feminist movement. I think a lot of what I've heard from feminist friends is like, you know, women are better than men, which I don't agree with. I think there is a level of equality, you know, but it's not one better than the other. We're just different. We're just designed differently, you know, and I agree with that. So, yeah, I don't know. I understand, but who created like...
But my thing is like, if we're different, then why are we all doing the same thing? Right? Because we're all in the workforce. We're none of us are really at home with the kids anymore. So if we're all different, then why are we doing the same thing?
There's a need.
There's a what?
There's a need for both parents to be working in a
Yeah,
lot
and
of
I get that.
households.
Yeah, I get that. Then that's where I don't blame women for going out in the workforce and doing their part, because the truth is that there is a true need. But
it's like they have no choice now, you know?
Yeah.
I just think, I think I've had a recent experience where a lot of women get offended when you even try to put yourself in a position like they don't have to work. Like you can say something like, hey, like, I want to make it where you don't have to work. And that becomes a, what? Oh, so you think I'm supposed to just stay at home and clean all day and watch your kids while you out and live life? And it's like, no, like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm actually, and I, like my example, I think a lot of times men's attempts to do nice things simply for women, take care of women, have now become demeaning. Like, for example, I literally was at the mall. I held the door open for a lady who was coming through the same direction. She stops, goes through a different door and says, I don't need you. I'm like, I was holding the door for you. I don't get that. It now has become, if we do something, it's become I'm saying that you're not capable, when instead I'm really just doing something nice. And it's like a lot of women now will take the kind things that we do as we're demeaning and saying they're not able to do this for themselves, when it's like, no, I just want to do this for you.
And at the same time, we're still held to those standards. As far as there are no good men out there, this man doesn't do this, you're not a real man. So what is a real man if we have women who are trying to be better than a man? And then when you are better, we're less. But we can't seem as if we're better than you. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, what is our role? What are we supposed to do if we're offending you, if we do what you kind of say we don't do?
Yeah, That's really good right there, because I also want to hear, I don't know if you have,
Mm-hmm.
but like as far as like when you think about statement Leroy just made about what is our roles, you know what I'm saying, and how does that play? How do you look at that? You don't have to answer that question if anything you had in mind, but yeah.
But no, definitely like pointing back to what Salas was talking about, like I grew up in that type of household where my mom was a housewife. She worked at 3 years old. I was not about that life. I was like, where's my mom? I want my mom. She didn't work for my other 3 siblings. And my dad told her, you have a choice. You can stay home and I'll provide. And she did that for me and my little brother. Now she's working because, you know, he's older and she needed a hobby. She was just driving us insane, cleaning everything, folding our clothes and that. But I mean, she told me today, she was like, I still would have made that choice not to go to work because my dad could provide. And as far as like guys' roles, I think it also comes from like the household as well. Like what do you see when you're growing up? Are both your parents there? Is your dad the provider as well? Or are both parents working? Because then it just becomes a cycle sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I'm hearing you guys, and I think I want to make sure that we're clear. I don't think anyone here is saying that women can't, or that it's morally wrong for a woman to pursue a career, or it's morally wrong for them to do any of that. Let me ask that with the guys, and the fact that like there's a mischaracterization of what a role of a man is. Like, does a man have to be like this warmongering dude who's macho, who's out here killing in the fields, hunting and doing all this stuff? Is that the role of a guy? Because you know,
yes, it is.
It's to be a leader.
Exactly what you said. Yes, it is. Protection is being leaders, providing.
right.
If you go to the beginning of time, like that was a man's role. That's how we got here. You know, like freedom was fought by men. You know, like that is a man's job. Not to say that women don't themselves have a role, but everything you just described the men to be, yeah, that's sums
That's
it up.
at least a big part of it.
Yeah.
Well,
So what would you say?
jump into that a little bit, Eric. Like, what do you mean by that? Just so that I can make sure I get a
'Cause
clear point.
I feel like the modern man, like that kind of like macho thing, is looked at as a negative, you know. But I feel like what is being macho? It's providing. It's being a protector. You know, those biological factors that you said.
I mean,
That's
that
built in
word
us.
just has a negative connotation, though.
I think that's a good point, Natalie.
Because
Because I
like
think
housewife does, and it shouldn't.
Yeah,
It does have a
I
negative
think that's the point there, because what you're saying is kind of a little different what you're saying, because you're putting the macho term as being like this man who has to put up this image that shows as a man. I don't think that's the case. But a man, I think naturally, to your point, Eric, does need to, I think is wired to be the provider, to be the leader, to be, and then that in itself has taken a negative connotation where you call the man the leader, you're calling a woman like useless. And so, you know, which is not the case. So I think in a sense, I would say yes, but I wanted to know, that's a good question you asked me. I want to know how you were describing it, because I don't feel it should be like the macho man, you know, I'll run everything kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
But
yeah,
You don't.
it does go to why he said it starts with a man.
Mhm.
Because
Yep.
a man is leading. If you're starting, you're leading.
And if the man is no longer
That's good, yeah,
that,
yeah.
because he is, I do agree with that. I didn't mention that, but I do agree with that, where it does start with the man, because the man is no longer taking that step into being that leader, being that forefront. Why is the man not taking that lead? And if he's not taking that lead, then who is taking that lead?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because in school we had a seminar called How to Be a Man. And we had some guys come in there thinking, you know, it was going to be like macho this, macho that. But in reality, it was like, you know, Ruben, do you cry sometimes? Exactly. Lewis, your feelings get hurt sometimes too? I think sometimes we forget as a society that you guys do have your moments where you can be emotional a little bit, you know, and some guys don't want to show emotion. Like, no, we have to be aggressive. We have to be leaders and angry all the time. But in reality, you need a good cry sometimes. You
But
need to show emotion.
Just because you cry doesn't mean you're not a macho, you're not a leader.
But I think
But that's the problem. There's
It's the- it's what we
institutions.
look at.
Yeah,
It's
some
even that
institutions
word
are gonna say
macho.
that.
What does that word macho really mean? To us, it may
Exactly.
mean all something different.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
wanna- I wanna let Isaac
it goes
come in
into
real quick, yeah.
to the definitions of what you mean by macho. I mean, going back to what Ruben was talking about, how it all started. A lot of it started back in the early 1900s when men were abusing the leadership roles that they had. They were failing to be
Yep.
true good men, and that's when the women had to come out and say, "Hey, we got to do something. Something's not right here. We got to fix this." And that's where the problem started, or even earlier than that too. But at the same time, going back to not all men have to be that when we hear the word macho, we think of somebody that's an go-getter, strong go-getter type person. That's not all men. All men aren't supposed to be that. There's different types of leaders in all aspects of life. There's quiet leaders, there's bold leaders, there's
they're still
bombastic
leading,
leaders
still
nonetheless.
leading in their own ways.
Yeah.
And so we can't box in all men to be this way, just like we can't box in all women to be a certain way as well.
That's really good. But I think the danger in I guess what I'm thinking about here is we're no longer even trying to define the different roles now. I think what we're saying now is when I say we, no, not everybody, but when I think of the feminist movement and other things, is men and women, there's no difference between them, right? So I think that's when we get into murky waters, because now we're saying if there's no difference, then there's no point of talking about roles. If there's no point of talking about roles, then the family is kind of not even as valuable no more, right? Because if there's, so that's kind of where I feel like they put both as the same playing field for the sake of equality. But what I'm saying, equality is not being the same, right?
I want to ask a question. I want to see who agrees or disagrees with just the statement. It's just a blank statement, right?
Right, know where he's going.
Oh my God.
So
this is a good statement.
The statement is, the man is the leader of the family. I want to hear everyone. I want to hear everyone. Just that statement. Just
I got
that
another
statement.
statement. I'm gonna say another statement. Say the one you said before. Okay. So yeah, say it from you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I do believe that the man should be the leader in the home. I think there's some clear understanding of how that works out. In a company, you might have a CEO and a president. Does it mean that one's better than the other? Does it mean the president doesn't have a lot of input in what's going on? But somebody takes the brunt of the burden of what happens in the end. It's my responsibility. I don't care if we both made a joint decision. It's still going to come on my shoulders. I'm the one that's going to take the hit.
Well said.
That's what it really comes down to. Who's responsible for all? Yeah,
that's what's considered macho, and it's not
it's all how you define that. But so yeah, that's in my opinion. The man should be the leader in that case, but it's not that he's running everything. He's still the wife is very important to get. I mean, if a one single person, no matter if it's a company or a family, leading it without input from other people, it's gonna fail.
Yeah.
That's just
and going back
I agree
to
with
what
that.
Isaac was saying, like that's why the feminist movement started. Like it was because of that abuse of power.
Actually, agree.
So-
So that's the crazy. The feminist movement started with a heart for equality, but I think where it needs to be challenged because it's deviated to a heart of not
Competition.
not equality, but now competition and better of. But yeah,
Which
you
I don't
must say
agree
that
with.
that's really
Yeah.
good because it started with that, And if I'm correct, I think it was Christians who started the feminist movement, from what I've heard, But
Oh, I mean, again, I feel like in Western society, when it comes to a lot of social justice issues, they all started from the church, but they're all gone from the church because the church stopped caring.
Deeper conversation on the roads, deeper conversation of how it started, the history behind it, how society plays a role. And, we got so many things that this leads to that goes beyond just like a movement, right? So I think we're highlighting it to the feminist movement, right? But I want to also clear this up. It's definitely beyond that because it goes back to like the things we're so like a thought I had is we have to go back to the root because even in the episode we spoke about pornography. Right. And when we spoke about pornography, like now in our culture, men and women want to do what they see in pornography. So even that is, and this is for me thinking about a kind of expectation and social construct. Where we look at even pornography, now we look at men and women like acting like this is what validates them, right? Like women got to be able to do this and that. Men got to be able to take charge this way. That's dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so even topics like that, man. But yeah, man, I guess I'll open it up for like some final thoughts before we close out and things like that. And I know, by the way, there's so much more to say. You know what I'm saying? Because this is the heart of it, because we definitely don't want to stop here, right? This is really just the beginning. But as we get in more difficult conversations, we want to stay true to opening ourselves up to being challenged, opening ourselves up to people being like, yo, Lewis, you are bugging out saying that, you know what I'm saying? Or what you're saying really, that I don't agree with that. And the reason we want to do that is because we feel there's so much division in our country and in every conversation you have where the division is costing us to not make this possible. right? You know.
Yeah, and I'm super encouraged with what you guys are doing here. I think getting people to the table to talk about these things, that's where historically we have all of our problems start. We don't understand the other side. We don't take the time to sit down and talk to a friend about a different perspective and understand where they're coming from. And we just start hating on each other on Facebook or wherever it might be. So sitting down, having these conversations, I think is huge and key for us to understand it and come to a better understanding of each other.
And I think that's where you guys were getting at in the beginning, where, you know, people don't really have a voice anymore. Like if you say something outrageous that's against what everybody else thinks, you're crazy, you're racist, you're sexist, you know, and
nobody wants to even hear it out.
Which I think is dangerous, because although I may not agree with someone, I will still hear them out. I think there's value in hearing people out, you know, and getting a different perspective. So
yep, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone is saying. Like I said, I'm encouraged by you guys, by the fact that you're opening this platform to be able to speak your minds, and you're not afraid of doing that.
How about yourself, Kim? Any final thoughts?
I think what you guys are doing is awesome. I mean, seeing the vision brought to life is amazing, and especially opening up these conversations that are difficult to have sometimes. And we may not all agree, but I want to say this is a safe space to just freely talk about it and like just hash it out with each other. It's healthy.
Yeah. Thank you. Right here, man. I appreciate y'all all coming out for real. I appreciate all y'all who tuned in really and just kind of got to listen. If this is your first time checking in and you just saw this video, man, I hope you go back. Listen to some of our podcasts, man. And I think the heart behind it is whether you agree or disagree, I think you'll learn something, or even kind of like step into like a new train of thought kind of thing to grow, which is what we're doing even as we record, right? So so thanks for tuning. This is Macallan and Friends, man. If you haven't checked it out, we got a podcast on Google Play, all iTunes, and all different podcast platforms. So go check that out, subscribe, listen, and we also got an email, macallan.friends@gmail.com. So if you got any like feedback or stuff like that, definitely reach out to us. We're definitely open to that because we want to invite people to the conversation. So yeah, Macallan and Friends, man. Thank you for tuning, guys.
Macallan and Friends, come vibe with us. Real talk, no lies. One bam, that's right. Macallan and Friends, come vibe with us. Real talk, no lies. One bam, that's right. Macallan and Friends, come vibe with us. Real talk, no lies. One bam, that's right.